So when you're thinking about diversity and equity, a lot of times people will come at it from one lens, right? So you are Black, you are Latina, you are a woman, you have a disability, right? And we often forget that intersectionality of it is important. So I'm a woman, but I'm also a Black woman. There are Black women with disabilities. There are Black women who are a part of the LGBTQ community. And all of those intersections of our identity are important. So I think when we're really thinking about systemic transformation and really making change for STEM as a whole, we really have to be really tuned in to people's identities, all that they bring to the table. So race and ethnicity, class, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, age, all of those facets of identity that people bring to the table, so that when we're thinking about any kind of intervention or any kind of policy or any kind of change that we want to make, that we're really thinking about who we're impacting and how we're impacting them based on what they're walking in the door with, because everybody brings their own perspectives, their own challenges, their own everything to the table when they walk through that door.
I think that we have to think more broadly than just computer science students. What we need to think about in the largest sense is, how do we increase the exposure that students have to computing? Who's having an opportunity to learn how computing applies in other fields, that students have a chance to really learn core concepts of computing. So work I've been doing in other projects is, for example, you have students who take a psychology class. They have to use statistics. So the students accomplish that, but they don't walk away with any understanding of what the computing concepts are behind that code. So they can't replicate that ever again. So to me, that's a missed opportunity. Students in biology, psychology, the quantitative social sciences, digital humanities, none of those students are really learning core concepts of computing, but those disciplines are all more diverse than computer sciences. So we're missing a huge opportunity there to broaden the diversity of who learns core concepts of computing. Within computer science itself, I do think that we have a long way to go to greet students with whatever background they bring to the door, and then give them a pathway into further computer science study.
On the policy side, we're looking at how do we create systemic change through these organizations, institutions on the post-secondary side, K-12 schools and districts, as well as nonprofits on the K-12 side. So those policies will be embedded in places where, in order to meet standards or accreditation, you have to meet those criteria that we include. The part that becomes a lot more individual are the practices that a lot of us have. For example, I often use this idea of no hat policies that I used to have for young men in my class. And my argument was always that I'm a woman, I'm from the South. When you're inside of a building, you're supposed to take your hat off. And often the people who made those decisions about what is professionally acceptable did not look like me, and no one was in the room, again, contributing to that thought process. And what does it really change in terms of a student's ability to learn and effectively get through and navigate a course if they decide to wear a hat? That's one example of a practice that we're trying to get individual educators and leaders to understand, because those individual practices may not seem like big deals, but they are in the grand scheme of things when you have a small group of students who feel like they're not seen or they're not validated, because when they show up, they have to change who they are to be accepted. And that's really what AiiCE is trying to do, is get everyone to understand that it's bigger than just the systems, it's also the people as well. And if we can start to at least impact the people, then hopefully the people will create this groundswell of support that leads to better policies in the systemic level.
All of the things that you feel like you might have to put away to enter the space is probably the things we need in that space in the first place. So this concept of like bringing your whole self, like it's not a cliche thing. Like it actually means something for you to be different in the room. We a lot of times in STEM, force, like it's assimilation. Like if you don't look like this, you're not a proper STEM person. But it's all of those things that people end up marginalized about that would actually improve what we're doing in those spaces. So I would really want people to bring those things into the spaces to really impact the future.